Hello and welcome to the first in a series of lessons on configuring a Cisco router. In this quick lesson today, we're going to start off with the basics. We're going to set up a router up. We're going to give it a router name. We're going to assign passwords to the router. We're going to enable telnet. We're going to enable console connections to it, and we're going to encrypt all the passwords. That's what I intend to do for this lesson. If you look at the screen, you can see that I've got site A and site B. Site B has got a switch, a 2960 switch, and site A has got the router, and site A has also got a PC. I've put down the IP numbers that we're going to be using, and you'll notice that these connections are red because we haven't enabled the interfaces on the router at this point. So what I suggest you do is that you if you're going to follow along with these lessons, you set up the screen as you can see it in front of you, pause the video. Once you've got that set up, you can then carry on watching the video. So I'm going to go into my router, so I'll click it. You may go to the config screen first time, so the best thing to do is go to the CLI. And the first thing that you might be presented when you start your router up is, would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? Just enter no for that, and it'll skip that. We don't really want to follow the wizard. So when you first go into a router and it's been booted up, you're in the standard setup, and from here you can't really do anything. If I type show run, which should show me how the router has been configured, it won't let me do it because I've got no permissions at this point. So I need to get into what's called exec mode. So to do that, I type in enable, and when I type in enable, you'll notice that it changes to a hash key. So that means now if I type in show run, it shows me how the router has been set up. You can see at the top the host name is router, and you have to use the enter key or else it'll just throw you straight out. There's nothing else being set up. There's no IP address. The interface ports are shut down. There's no VLAN being configured. So we're basically being presented with an empty router. If I use the up and down arrow key, you can go to previous commands. So show run, enter takes me through the config, and the more we do it, the longer the config is going to get. And then when you press the down arrow, it just kicks you out. So if I want to make changes to the router, I have to type in configure terminal. I type in configure terminal, and you'll notice it's gone from a hash, like you can see there, to it's got the word config in. So that means now I can configure it. If I want to exit, I just type in exit, and you see I'm back to the hash key. And again, if I type in exit from there, I'm back to the main login screen. So I have to type in enable to elevate my privileges, and I'm at a point now where I can look at the router, look how it's been set up, look at how it's been configured, and then if I type in configure terminal or conf t for short, it'll take me to the config screen. So the first thing I want to do is, I'm looking at my list that we're going to follow. I'm going to assign a router name, so we'll call it site A router. So to do that, I need to type in host name, one word, and then site A, or you can't leave gaps in, so site A, site underscore A underscore router. And if I hit the enter key, it hasn't thrown an error out to me, and you can see that it's named it site A router. So I'll hit enter a few times to make it more clear. You can see that I've now got site A router instead of router and config. So if I was to type exit now, just to show you back and forth between screens, I type in show run, or SH run for short. You can see host name has now become, whereas before was just router, it's now site A router. So we've given our router a name. If I press the down arrow key, it throws me straight out. So the next thing I want to do is enable a password. So I need to get it back into executive mode. So I type in I type in conft, and you can see that I've got configure there. So I can configure my router and start to program it. So the first thing I'm going to do is just enable the default password to get in. So I type in enable password, and I'm going to call every password is going to be Cisco. So enable password Cisco, and I hit the enter key. It doesn't tell me if it was successful or not, but it hasn't thrown out an error. So if I exit, so you can see I've got rid of the config there. I type in show run, and you can see as well as site A router, I've now got enable password Cisco. If I typed in enable secret and then put in Cisco, that would have encrypted it. But what I'm going to do for now is I'm not going to encrypt anything. I'm going to leave the encryption until the last step, but we'll encrypt everything. It's important now that we can see what we're doing as we go along. So enter will keep me going down through the config. Down arrow will just throw me straight out. So we've put a password in at that point. So the next thing on the list is to enable the console. So I don't think so. If I do show run again and I hit the enter key, you'll see further down through the config that it's got line console 0. That's the command we're going to use to configure the console, and this is how we can configure telnet. So VTY04 and line con 0. So I'm going to go into conft, and I'm going to now configure those ports. So I'm going to type in line con 0. So that will take me to line con 0. And I'm going to put in password Cisco, and then I'm going to type in login. So that will have configured the console for me. So if I exit and type in show run, or use the up arrow key to configure through what I've done, show run, you can see I'm still in config, so it won't show me. So it says invalid input detected. So I got to hit exit again. Now it's gone. So I type in show run, and if I enter through, you'll see that line con 0 and the password is Cisco, and it's ready for me to log in. So I'll use the down arrow key. I've got to elevate my permissions again, configure T, and this time we know it's line VTY04. So I type in line VTY04 and I type in password Cisco and log in. And now when I exit again, and if I go to show run, you should see that I've configured there we are. I've got line con 0 password is Cisco and line VTY password is Cisco as well. So I've used Cisco for all the passwords. but they're all in plain text, so that's quite a problem for us. If I was to type in a command that I didn't understand, that the router didn't understand, it would actually try to go to DNS and look it up. So if I was to type in, and I won't do it because it can take up to a minute, if I was to type in an invalid command here like restart or reboot at this point, it would try to go to a DNS server and look up that command, and that would waste a lot of time. So what we can do is we can disable DNS. So if I go to conft and I type in no IP and it's domain lookup. What I will do is if I do enter a wrong command like restart now, it'll just say invalid. It won't attempt to go on through DNS and look it up. So if I type in exit and I do show run this time, you see right, you should see somewhere along here there I put in no IP domain lookup. So if somebody was to look at this router and want to see what's going on, they'd see that I've added that command in there. So we're getting pretty close to the end of this lesson. The last thing I'm gonna do is to save the save the config. But first of all, I've gone into conft. What I want to do is add some security, and I want to encrypt all of our passwords. So to do that, what I need to do is I'm in config and I type in service password dash encryption, and when I do that, if I exit now and I do show run, you'll notice that now my password has been encrypted, and if I scroll further down, you'll see again the word Cisco's gone now, and they're all encrypted. So what I've done is I've encrypted all of my work. So at this point we should save. I'll hit the down key. At this point we should probably save our config. So I will type in copy running dash config to startup dash config, and what that will do, it'll copy the running config to the startup config, so it'll save everything I've done. Destination file name, I'll just hit enter, and it'll just give me the default. So it saved it for me now. So if I was to restart this router, it would come back up to where it was. If I didn't do that, then there would be nothing would be saved. I would have lost all my work. So that will conclude it for this lesson. Next lesson, when we come back, we will create some banner warnings. So when somebody comes onto the router, it'll give them a warning. We'll configure and activate both interfaces on the router, and we'll give them IP addresses, and we'll establish a domain name so that we can make telnet a lot easier. So until the next lesson, I'll speak to you again.